Hi, my name is Emily. I'm 25, and Lynn, the alumni coordinator at Rosewood Santa Monica, has asked me to come and speak and just give a little bit about myself and my story. And we were actually talking a little bit ago about what you consider yourself when you're past a certain point with treatment, and the idea of being completely recovered versus saying, I deal with this on a day-to-day basis. And I am of the mindset that you can be completely recovered to the point where there are some days where you don't think about it at all, or you're kind of at a place where, things, it doesn't feel like something that you have to, wear every day. And initially, when I was in treatment, I would hear a lot of people say, this is just something that I deal with. I'm at a good weight. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, but it's just kind of like this weight I have to carry, and I think about it, every time I eat, and that never sounded good to me. I think that sounds terrible, but I, wanted to go through recovery because I knew that my life wasn't how I wanted it to be after a while. But that was the only story I heard from the time I was, 12 or 13 through about 19, was the same, and it wasn't inspiring to me, just for myself to hear, because I thought, like, oh, now I have this thing, forever. And so it wasn't until I was 19 that I met my nutritionist, who was the first woman that I'd ever met, she was 27 years recovered, I think, at that point. And I remember sitting in her office and her telling me that, and then, halfway through our session being like, oh, I'm gonna have a snack because I'm hungry, and me being like, wow, she doesn't seem to be in the mindset of, like, this is just something I deal with every day. She said that she knew that she was recovered when she would realize, oh, it's been days or weeks or however long since I've thought of food in this way. And so because of that, and because of the way that I looked at her and her relationship with food, so much so that she, runs a wellness center for people with eating disorders, which, I mean, you can't sit there all day and talk about it and help other people, I think, if you are still in the throes of it, or have that mindset. So she was like this ray of light to me, and it was really who inspired me and showed me that there's a different way to be recovered, other than, just kind of getting through your meals and getting through each day, and it being like this, sluggish, like, really heavy backpack. She was like talking about traveling and the things she likes to do, and I was like, wow, you can do all these things and not even have it be in your mind at all. So for me, that was just the more inspirational message, and was the person that I wanted to strive to be past all of this. And it wasn't like I heard that and then, oh my gosh, it was all done and I was, I packed it up. But it was the beginning of me really understanding what treatment could look like past completion, I guess. And so now my life is very different, because all of the time and energy I put into this terrible habit of mine is now, I suddenly had like all this free mind space to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with my own life. And so I went back to school and finishing up my bachelor's degree, which is something that I didn't think I was going to do. Not because I didn't really want to, but because I just I didn't understand what it meant for me, or I couldn't see any life past the next, few hours of just getting through dealing with this eating disorder. And then I also, I know you and I had discussed the things that you like to do and what I like to do with my free time, and that was another exciting piece for me, is that when I was in treatment, I had a notebook, and I wrote down like the things that I like, and I went to go make a list, and I realized how little I was able to write down. So I think it's kind of not just what I like in terms of what I like to eat, or what tastes good to me, but just in terms of like activities I like to do, and realizing that I had potential to do something else with my life, because my dreams that I'd had for myself since I was a kid had to be shrunk down so much, and were getting further out of reach. And so me going back to school was kind of like the first major step for that. And yeah, I think it was more exciting to kind of figure out who I was aside from this story that I had to tell people all the time. Because there were a lot of appointments, and there were a lot of meeting different people who were generally in charge of my care in one way or another. So it was a lot of this repeated narrative, and then to kind of like, have, as those appointments lessened, to kind of be like, okay, like what do I want to do with my time? And being in California is also a lifelong dream of mine since I was very young. So I've been here for about 4.5 years, and getting to see the fact that I can achieve the goals that I had for myself in relation to living here. It's kind of like you have moments where, either through my school experiences or through friendships that I've developed, to see yourself on the set of something, or either acting in something or writing for something or whatever it might be, and kind of, I usually leave those experiences, and I know it probably won't always be like this, but even the first initial times you walk away, and I've always been like, this is why I wanted to get better. If not initially for myself, like these external goals are what were drawing me to California, what were drawing me to get better. It was also very much about my family, but in terms of what I wanted for myself, like I'll walk away from a really, really cool experience and say like, I know this wouldn't have been possible, no way. And also this is what I was working towards. So, there's definitely a lot of those moments, and increasingly so as I finish up with school, but that is one thing that's definitely validation for. It's not like I put in all this work and, what do I have to show for it? It's like the little things that we do that add up that we don't even realize until later have made a huge impact. And then, you walk away from these moments and it's like, and that's what I what I did it for, and now it is about, caring for myself. But I definitely have those moments where I'm like, I wish I could, take a picture of this and send it back however many years and say, like, this is on the other side of this thing that, you're doing right now, or you have going on right now. Like, this is, if you get better, if you kind of change your mindset about what it means to be in treatment, because I know for a lot of people it's an obligation. It's because, their parents are saying they have to, or their team says they have to, or they're going to lose their job or whatever. They're not really doing it for, either they're not doing it wholeheartedly, which I know I wasn't for, like 5 or 6 years, I think. It was kind of just like, I'm sliding by, I'm managing it, and that's where you get kind of stuck, is you're in this box of like, I'm able to manage my eating disorder this much, but if I am stressed or if I hit this wall or that wall, it's like all of a sudden everything is chaotic, and you're like, I didn't even realize how much of a hold it still had on me, until, this, life happens and we can't manage a lot of it. And so it's all about the shifting perspectives and the reasons why you end up getting better. But it's definitely, being here has shown me, it's shown me the reasons why I initially wanted what I wanted for myself, even as a little kid.
Mm-hmm. Emily, what are some of the things that helped you shift your perspective? You talk about a shift in your perspective, which of course takes years, to do.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that helped you? I know the dietitian you talked about, so hearing that a recovered life is possible. Mm-hmm. What are some other things, even if they're tiny?
Yeah, so I definitely had to kind of, I had to educate myself almost in the fact that most of what we see in the media and on social media is, it's an image. It's what's been out there for years and years and years. And so I had Pinterest boards and things like that were all body positive stuff, because I was just following what I saw on TV and in the news, and I completely cut myself off from that. I still don't read gossip magazines or anything, more so just because I can't get with them. But you know some of the stuff that's going on in the world, and then we're supposed to care about these tiny little things that don't matter. But when it's in front of your face and you're reading it on the cover of something, like, oh, this is important, even subconsciously, I think we just think that these things are important, or everybody is this size, and why don't I look this way when I put this thing on? And so it was like, in my high school years, it was a lot of just completely cutting myself from all of that stuff, rearranging my priorities in terms of, like, showing myself images of other people who, the majority of people who don't look this certain way, and kind of, reading blogs and things like that, where you literally have, my brain likes facts, and I know that it likes facts, so I would be very fact-driven initially, and be like, okay, show me what really happens when we go on these crazy diets, or when we take these pills, these, like, miracle pills, like, really understanding past the picture on, the label or whatever, like, what is really happening here. So for me, that was a huge shift, is that, like, breaking down that initial definition of what things are or appear to be. And then as soon as I started even just scrolling mindlessly on the internet through more wider range of people and ideas and things like that, then I started to kind of re-educate myself, and that was more motivation for me to shift into not only wanting to, go through recovery for myself, but more so for my body at that point, because I was starting to see different bodies, basically, and so kind of it became more of respect for my body, and then it would very slowly shift from thing to thing, from a task to, like, almost a duty at that point, where you want to you almost want to fight back against this body image, that is projected everywhere. That's just not true. They're doing, things are changing a little bit.
They are slowly, yeah.
But they need to change a whole lot more, so.
Are you still on Instagram?
I am on Instagram, but the only things that I follow, I don't follow anything but friends, families, a couple of, like, interests I have, like writing or things like that, and then body positivity blogs. I follow a lot of nutritionists who will post positive things, not that throw you back in that mindset, but are breaking down, if you hear this, this is actually the truth behind it, or this is, and continually getting that truth, because I feel like if I don't hear it, and then I slowly start to think, like, oh, I wonder, maybe this thing is different, because everything is the new trend, like you have to do this or you can only do that, or if you do this this is gonna happen. And so and they're all very convincing, I think, to a certain extent. So I just like having it's a lot of really strong women who are just there to kind of show what the reality is. Just a lot of girls with issues that I've never had, but that I find inspiring because they get on the internet and they show themselves as they are, and they talk about their issues and they educate me and everyone else. And they also serve as role models for the people who have similar issues that they do. So I think it's all just about mixing in different things into the equation, because as it is right now, if I just went along with what Instagram I think is meant to be, then it just doesn't, I don't walk away from it feeling good. I walk away from it feeling like that I need to change something, and that's...
I agree. I think it's slowly shifting.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, have you heard of Embrace with Taryn Bruffett? No. Anyway, she spoke at our reunion in Arizona. She's Australian. So she had everybody, all the alumni, there was like 100 of us there, do an exercise where we went onto our social media and unfollowed anyone that wasn't, and, you know, a lot of people did this. And so there are, but on the contrary, there are a lot of, like you say, very positive, good nutritionists that you can really get the facts from, that like, no, this is BS or whatever else. Do you still, speaking of RDs, do you still see your team at all, or what's that like for you now before we close up?
Yeah, so about once a month or maybe once every other month, I'll still talk to my nutritionist. And it's really kind of just, we really just talk, actually. We've known each other for about a little over 6 years now. So, and I don't live on the East Coast anymore. So it's really just us having a conversation, because she's someone that I care very much about. So,
like a check-in, just to keep you sort of...
Yeah. I don't think it's me, going like, oh my gosh, help. If I needed to, then I would absolutely say that. But for me, it's more of like a check-in, like you said, and then also to know that she's there, that we can talk about anything, and to kind of just, sometimes they'll say, oh my gosh, did you see this, or did you hear about this? And she'll say yes. And like I said before, I love facts. So to hear, a nutritionist perspective on it, and someone that went to school and continues to go to school actually for different areas of nutrition, it's just fascinating to learn about the body and what it does. And I don't want to say what's normal, because everyone is so different, but just what the actuality is behind all of the mirage that kind of gets thrown. I remember when I first started working with her, and she'd say something, and I wouldn't believe a lot of it, because I'd be like, that can't be true, because what about all this stuff that you see on TV, and this doctor or whoever says on TV, and she'd be like, no, yeah, that's true, and I'd be like, does everyone know about this? Like, I'd want to tell as many people as possible, because I wanted everyone to know that they didn't have to feel, this certain terrible way about themselves or about the way they're living their life. And it's hard a lot of times, because diet culture is so strong. You go in any restaurant or whatever, and they're trying to sell you based on calories or value of food, and it's very hard to sit there, and because I don't want to have to go and say, actually, did you know that, all groups and this and that, and
right.
This is the most important macronutrient, blah blah blah, and because it's just exhausting, and I don't want to do that, but it's hard, because that when the conversation is one thing, people don't know that there's anything else out there. So I think that's why social media, as much as it can hurt, can also be such a tool.
I agree.
Because just like I said, not spending all day on it, but just if you need to take a mental break, if you're scrolling through something else that just changes your perspective even a tiny bit, I think everything can start to shift from there. Kind of like when I first sat down with my nutritionist and she was recovered, and not telling me that I was going to have to deal with this every single day for the rest of my life. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just little instances like that I think really make all the difference.
Awesome. Need a comment?
Oh, yeah. I always forget that.
That's okay.
If anybody wants to ask a question or comment, you can go ahead and do that, and Lynn will let me know, and I will try my best to answer.
Yes, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much, Emily.
You're
You
welcome.
always say yes. Thank you.